welcome everyone to our 12th episode. And today we are going to be talking about past lives. But what we always do in the beginning is we start with the Schumann's resonance. So let me have a look here. Last week in Italy, we had a power of 16, but it peaked at 600 hertz. And over there, there's still stuff going on. It's not a high power today. They're only at 24 today, and they're about 8 hertz. But what was interesting was on February the 12th, which would have been Friday, I believe, there was a 5-hour blackout.
Wow.
Yeah, so there's some fluctuation. There's a lot of variations over there that are really hard to explain. We're not quite sure what's happening, but clearly it shows that there's some kind of changes going on. Over the course of the past week, there's not been a whole lot. Like the power's been around 6, I think, sorry, it's not 6, 16. I think the power of 24 is probably about the highest that it's been since our last show when it went up to 600 hertz. But yeah, so there's that. The only thing that's different there is that 5-hour blackout, and that's over in Italy and Russia. So that's on disclosurenews.it is where we get that information. And then on HeartMath, they're about 2 days behind. So last time we showed there's 7 places that they have the machines. And the first 6 were California, Saudi Arabia, Lithuania, Alberta, New Zealand. Last week, they varied between 67 to 93. This week, they're higher. They're between 74 and 146. Again, that's South Africa. That was flat all along, and it started moving. Remember, it started moving around the 1st of February? No, I don't remember when it started, but in any case, it was flat starting in early December. And then in February the 1st, it hit 340. The 5th, it hit 616, the power. Then it was 299. And February the 15th, 435.5. So the rest of them are kind of just a little wave, a little bit of variation here and there, but not big amounts. But that South Africa one, that's really interesting. That's really interesting. So again, we don't know exactly what's happening. We just know that there's a lot of changes happening in the earth itself. Yeah. So what's going on with the moon, Linda? Oh, we didn't introduce ourselves again. For those that haven't been watching, I'm terrible at that. I introduced the episode that we're on. Where's Your Focus podcast? I'm Karen Alexander. And this is Linda.
Yeah. Thank you. So with the moon, so right now we're coming out of the new moon, which is the energy internally, right? So we're really focused on internal. Now the energy is starting to move outwards. So we're seeing more of our personality traits moving out. So we're just coming out of the Aries. Aries is more of that social connection, organization, bringing creativity to the table. And so we're kind of coming out of that phase, moving into Taurus, which today we switched over at 3 a.m. this morning into a Taurus moon. Now, what we're finding in this, so for the next 3 days, we might be feeling a little bit imbalanced with the Taurus energy. So we're seeing maybe feeling a little bit more stubborn than we would normally feel. We might be able to tap into deeper spiritual gifts, but we're going to have to clear out some stuff, I think, to get it and make sure that we're using those gifts for the right reasons. So we might be tempted to be falling off track of our spiritual gifts over the next couple of days, actually. Not a great time for hasty decision making, actually, over the next couple of days. So on Friday, we actually switch into Gemini. So we're going to go into Gemini over the weekend. And this is where we're starting to step into more of that energy, outward energy expression because of our bringing the moon is coming to, it's going to be about half moon by the middle of next week, right? So we're coming into that energy. So next week we're into good language, good communication skills. Learning is going to be something that we're going to really do, or like be able to do over the weekend here. So bringing in new experiences, new teachings might be something that you want to step onto a new journey over the weekend, might be a good idea. So yeah, we're going to be like really attractive and optimistic when we go into that Gemini over the weekend. So
Good,
Mhm.
good. Yeah.
I know, right? Okay, so what to expect in this episode is we're going to be talking about Jesus consciousness. Um, we're we're going to be talking about the relevance of our past lives in this life, and also how they push us towards evolution in soul, spirit, and collective consciousness.
Right. Which is also called Jesus consciousness, right?
Also,
Christ consciousness. Yeah.
well, that's an aspect that some of us have come into, and which we're going to talk about how that happens. That consciousness gets injected into our past life experiences and pushes us towards
Mhm.
learnings and teachings.
Mhm. And there's so much.
There's a ton. So we are when we're looking at, we talked a lot about the death process. We talked a lot about the cleansing process and the afterlife. Then we talked about planning on coming, right? And what happens and all of that. Now we're going to talk about a little bit more about the journey that we've walked here on the planet, and how that is, I'm sorry, I have to switch my view because I'm looking at the, anyways, it's messing me up.
That's okay.
It's a lag
That's
on
okay.
Facebook, and I'm watching Facebook and not us. So now I'm watching us.
Okay. It can
Okay.
get confusing,
It,
technology,
it does
right?
get confusing because everything is like about 5 or 30 seconds off. So,
Right. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
okay.
Okay.
So we're talking more about how our journey on the planet makes us have experiences and teachings in our current life. And
Right.
this is really important because it all has to do with karma, and it has to do with cycles and everything that we've learned on our journey here, and how all of this is actually coming into your now, and what we're living in the now. And right now in our history, and in the history of the planet, is a very crucial time because we're changing the planet's consciousness. It's vibrating on a much higher levels, and this is why we like to bring you the Schumann's resonance to you, so that you can see that the vibrations of the planet as a whole is starting to vibrate on higher and higher levels all the time.
Mhm.
And that's why that information is so important, that we deliver that. And I think, anybody who is out there who is living in the spiritual realm at all, I definitely think I recommend on getting on the Schumann's resonance page, so you can see a lot of the conversation that's happening there. And
So,
because right now in our time frame, we're just, really seeing history and miraculous things happening.
exactly. So
So
realistically, the past lives, they can hold a lot of answers to what we're living in this lifetime, right? Like our phobias, our illnesses, all that kind of stuff. Because as we go through these lives, and we talked about this before with reincarnation and the reprogramming and everything, when we leave our body, our soul is actually being pulled out. But when our soul is pulled out, it's pulling out all of the energetic information. Okay, so it's pulling out our electromagnetic field. It's pulling out all of our energy centers. It's pulling out all of the information that our cells have gathered over that lifetime. It's pulling it out with it. And so every lifetime we get all of that information pulled out. And so every time we come back, so when we're reincarnated, a portion of whatever happened in our past lives is being reprogrammed into our body the next lifetime.
Yeah.
right? And so we're not, and we're not getting everything. We're getting the parts that we need. So the parts that we need would be anything like our gifts that we've uncovered, any of the talents that we have, anything that we can use to further evolve is going to be programmed into our new bodies.
Mhm.
But the other thing that's going to be programmed into our new bodies is anything that we haven't healed from the past.
That's right.
Yeah.
And we're also programmed too in the DNA. So the DNA is also part of that past life stuff. We can tap into our ancestral line and also learn a lot of information from what's happened on the ancestral line. Patricia Callahan is saying she sent a brief description of her past life to you in your message, if you want to talk about that today.
Oh, I didn't get it.
Oh, okay.
I
Oh,
didn't get that. Where did she send it?
she said she sent it to you in Messenger. Maybe she just did, and then we didn't see it in time.
Oh, oh my goodness. But you know what, Patricia? I don't know, but for whatever reason, there are times that come up that I have messages, and for whatever reason, yours doesn't show up. I have to go in and say, oh, is that Patricia? And I have to go and actually look because it doesn't show up. But I'm seeing now, yes, there's one there. So do you want me to go out and read it? It's not that long.
Absolutely, sure.
Okay. So Patricia says, I had a past life experience a few years ago while I was sitting on the steps in my garage. I was shown that I was a lawyer, and there was a young boy with me dressed in a goalie uniform, a helmet, a stick, and all. I was shown that was how we originally met. He was my client and I helped him. It was Junior, my husband ex. I often received messages through songs and songs that were played, where Can't Take My Eyes Off You was, I guess, one of the songs, which is the theme song for the movie Conspiracy Theory. And that was Junior's favorite movie. The other song that was playing was The First Time Ever I Saw Your Face. And I was shown that he kissed me on the cheek to thank me for helping him. And that was the moment we fell in love.
Wow.
It's not the first or only past life experience I have had, but it is the best one so far. So, wow, that is
Beautiful.
amazing. I hope you're okay with me reading that out, Patricia.
But she said she wanted us to talk about it. Uh,
Yeah.
Pearl Scott too. She's also sending a message. So, hello, can you help me, please? I may have a message. Will all this hate stop in my life? Cry all the time about this, please. So, this is something that a possibly looking into some of your past life experiences that may help you. Not in every circumstance that we are experiencing suffering will help to do past life regression, but a lot of times it does because we are seeing that there are correlations between what we're experiencing and suffering from today has connections to traumas that happens in past life experiences.
That's right. And a lot of times that will show up if something is showing up that is repetition. So you've got the same pattern happening over and over again, kind of what you've just explained. Normally that is from a past life. A lot of times that's from a past life. Another way you can tell that something might be from a past life would be there's a real emotional intensity surrounding that. That could be another thing. And another way that we might be able to tell it's the trauma that we're experiencing, or what we're experiencing is from a past life, could be that it's something that's really not explainable. So as an example, you have a phobia of something, but there's no explanation as to why you should be scared of that. That could be coming from a past life. So those are just a few things that can explain that it is coming from a past life. And Linda's right, that past life regression is probably one of the strongest ways of being able to heal that. I mean, there are other ways as well, but that would be one of the strongest ways.
Yeah. And
because that's precise. That can go right, that can access exactly that memory the first time that emotion or that feeling came to you, right?
Well, and this is the thing too, is when we can go back to that original trauma and we learn everything we're supposed to learn in the original trauma, then we don't like, because one trauma can affect the human in so many different aspects of your personality. And so when you go back to that original trauma, you're picking off everything at once instead of when you're here and you're trying to work it through one at a time. It's like you gotta keep going back to it over and over again until you heal all aspects of it. And it does work. It gets there. It's just a longer process than going back to that original place where that original trauma took place.
Yeah.
So
And something it makes me think of, Linda, is it while you're just explaining that, it just came to me. It's kind of like that movie, The Groundhog Day, right? That you keep reliving the same thing, and that's a metaphor. It's kind of the same day over and over again, until you get it right, right? And this
until
is
you
kind of the
heal
same,
all aspects, right?
all
And healing
aspects.
all aspects is a huge part of the equation here, because everything that happens to us, it doesn't matter how extreme it is, it's meant to teach us and to help us to grow. But we lost that. We
Yes,
lost that knowledge. And so, because we've lost that knowledge, there's so much trauma in the timeline that hasn't been properly healed. And so when we're living in this life, and depending on, and I say everybody who is on this path, and even if you're watching this, you have a being and a mind that is here to grow and to serve the light and to bring the higher consciousness. So your connection to those emotions is going to be stronger than, say, somebody who's not aware.
absolutely.
And you're going to have the opportunity to work through more of that karma teachings, stuff that you needed to learn along your path line, than somebody who's not aware of that.
Exactly. And that brings to mind too, with the timeline that we're on right now, how fast karma is coming back around, which is why there are so many people here right now, because all of the souls want to be here in order to get rid of all that karma, like, and just like bang 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 bang, because it's happening so fast right now with everything that's going on in the world, and how the vibration is raising. Like it's everything is connected, right? Everything is connected.
And everything is raising at such a fast rate right now.
So
And you
fast.
can see it in the people, you can see it in the messages that you see on Facebook and the lives that are being talked about, and the information that's being delivered here. It's like it's really going up
Mhm.
fast. And so we're really given the opportunity to learn on such a fast level now. And that connection that we have to ourselves in the spirit world, the veil is thinning a little bit, and so we're able to connect to that white light, connect to that higher spiritual self, so that you are able to bring your thinking, your physical mind, and your physical body on these higher levels. And
Absolutely.
it's a slow process, but it's at the same time, right now it's not slow, I don't find.
No, it's not. It's very fast. Like that veil is falling very
Mhm.
quickly, and the light is coming in. And I mean, the darkness is it's lighting up the darkness. We have to see what we need to move.
Yeah,
So it's all happening very fast,
yeah.
and it's out there for everyone to see.
And it is out there for everyone to see. If you choose to connect to this information, you're going to see it. You are going to see it.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Mhm. Yeah.
And so another thing that I wanted to mention was, during the planning process, we have access to many different types of experiences that we can inject into our timeline. And those experiences can help us to draw different types of learnings into our lives. And
Mhm.
so sometimes in our timeline, we haven't really lived all of that information. Okay.
And borrowed information.
It's borrowed information so that we're moving in a direction, and our higher self can use that information to trigger different teachings and different experiences that come into our circle according to what the higher self plans.
Right. And a good way, well, I'm not sure if it's a good way to explain it, but a way to think of that is like we're all part of that. We're all a spark off of that same light, right? So any experience that comes in for any one of us is held in that light.
That's
So
right.
it can be injected into any one of us at any time. So even an experience that somebody else might have had in a past life can be actually injected into us so that we can grow and we can evolve from that.
Exactly. And you have to think too that that information is drawing other information to us in our current life,
Mhm.
right? So it's, and your higher self can peak these things to initiate different emotions inside of you. And really, when it comes down to it, if it makes you feel better and it gives your emotions an outlet and helps you to grow and to learn, does it really matter if it's real or not, that you
Exactly.
actually lived it? Because to me, suffering is something that I don't like to engage in for very long. And if my mind is giving me answers, or my energy is giving me answers to that suffering, then stepping forward into it is definitely, it walks you out of the suffering. So, you know, and
It's healing.
it's healing. Exactly. Exactly. So, I've worked with other people before that when they get into a trance and they start to see these images, they're like, oh, but I could have saw it in a movie. Yeah, maybe you did see it in a movie and maybe your mind is triggering that, but it's still taking you to the water to drink to heal, right?
Exactly.
You can lead the horse
Exactly.
to water, but you can't force it to drink.
I love
So
that.
the mind is that same thing. It'll take you there and the energy system will take you there, but it's up to you to walk into it and allow the shifts and the changes that are there for you.
Yeah, and it might be a good time, Linda, just to talk about the mind a little bit. I mean, there's our conscious mind, there's our subconscious mind, and then there's our superconscious mind. Our superconscious mind is like our higher. We have no, unless we go into our higher selves. We that kind of is kind of on the path. It's not on the past, but it's there, and it can interject things into us, right? Our subconscious and our conscious mind. Well, our conscious mind is our mind that we're using on a daily basis. It's only like 10%, right? Well, we're using our subconscious as well, but our conscious mind is where we're using our analytical mind. It's what we use to think. It's what we use for all of that. Our subconscious mind is what we talked about with habits, right? But the super conscious mind is what's coming in and doing that interjection. So even if it's not a past life that we lived, it's a past life from something or someone or some other soul.
Yeah, and you have to think it's collective consciousness. It's called collective consciousness for a reason.
Then
Okay, so
exactly.
the earth has a collective consciousness of experience that is our access to
Mhm.
that information. And right now, what we're doing is, as we're working through all of these karmas and healing all of that, we're actually healing the earth as a whole by
Mhm.
working through all of that karma.
Yeah. And we've talked about that many times apart. Raising the earth's vibration is raising our vibration. Raising our vibration is raising the earth's vibration. It's all together. It's all part, right?
Mhm. And so, talking about that, we're gonna move into the Christ consciousness and how that is actually being injected into a lot of our past life planning. Many of us have this in our past life injection experience, so that we move into that area of our lives and help the earth to move onto these higher levels.
Absolutely.
Mhm.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Another thing too is that we're also in some of our past lives, if we go back, and I've experienced this once or twice doing past life regressions, but we see people who live two lives at once,
Yes.
right?
That's
And we talk about, when we talked about twin flames, we've seen that the twin flame, the one spirit can split into two, and
mhm.
that's the same idea, right? So that the one spirit can split into two, or possibly for more than likely many more than that,
Yeah.
right? So that they're living two timelines at the same time.
Or multiple timelines at the same time. And we talked about that before, how when we come to earth, we don't take all of our energy with us. Some of our energy is kept there, and that can be used for other timelines, right? Other parallel lives. And I'll tell you, I watched a show on Netflix one time, and it was about parallel lives, and it was called if I hadn't met you. And if you haven't watched it, you should watch it because it's quite interesting, and it does. It's about parallel lives. I'm not going to give away for you what's going on. Probably Parallel Lives is going to give it away, but it's quite interesting, and it does explain out quite a bit.
Awesome. Yeah, I'll have to look into that. So cool.
Yeah,
But yeah, and we have these parallel lines in our timeline so that we're able to pull on all of that experience in your now. And so everything that you remember in your past lives is all to help you where you are right now. It's not to, a lot of what you don't see what you're not ready to see,
that's right.
right?
That's
You're
right.
only seeing what you are ready to actually metabolize and understand and grow from in your mind right now.
Hmm. And there are times that something will happen, and it it could be whatever, however much longer, however much time in between, like things that happen, and you'll go, why didn't I get that before? Why didn't I see that before? Right. And it's all about you only realize you're only aware of what you're supposed to be aware of at the time.
Yeah, exactly. And a lot of our suffering comes from the fact that we're still operating on these lower. Sorry, I have somebody who's messaged something. Please, I don't want to seem negative, but I'm in so much pain with all the evil, hateful things happening on my life. Please forgive me. Please forgive me. Please help.
Mhm.
I'm sorry. I'm not making fun of that. It's just that right at this moment in time, it may not be the greatest time for us to focus just on one person who's having a hard time. But please, if you are having a hard time, contact us and we can help you at a different time.
Exactly. Exactly. Yeah.
Okay, so that comes to show that we may have only lived here 5 or 6 times, yet we have the life experience of like 200 different lives. That is a possibility, right? And
Absolutely.
all of that information we have access to,
Mhm.
right, in our now. So it's all about where you are and where your understanding is and where your evolution is according to what you have access to in the now.
Absolutely. Yeah.
And another thing that I wanted to talk about was suicide.
Yes.
So I have a personal experience where I have committed suicide in a past life, and I've had to come back. And in this life, I had crammed a whole bunch of slew of experiences that I had to catch up on because I took my life in that life. And that then becomes okay. Well, is that part of the programming? Was that supposed to happen so that I would have that concentrated learning in the early parts of this life, so that I would be the person that I needed to be now, right?
Now.
Now, I know that suicide is definitely frowned upon. It's not something that is encouraged by any means.
No.
There's always you don't want to have to cram in learning. You need to learn and work through what's happening to you right now, so that you are able to step into your purpose and what those deeper things. And always remember that when you are working on yourself and where you are, that there are gifts in the darkness. We just need to keep pushing through to find those gifts, find those teachings, and start operating on those higher levels. Sometimes those gifts are boundaries, sometimes they're new ways of thinking, acting, and being in the world. And whatever that is for you, the darkness is only hiding it. You just need to keep connecting to the
Life.
and helping you to learn those new things that you need to learn.
Mhm, mhm. And I mean, we have free will, right? So even though suicide may not be in the plan, we still have free will. And some people are in such darkness. That's. But if there's anybody out there who's watching right now who is feeling in that darkness, by all means, reach out, because there's always help. There's always help.
There is always help. And I mean, I know Karen and myself, we are more than open to speak to anybody at
Mhm.
any time Don't worry about money. Don't worry about anything like
Absolutely.
that. It's not about that. If you need assistance, please do not hesitate,
Absolutely.
because we all know how difficult it can be to pull ourselves out of those really dark places. And, we never want to see anybody hurt themselves or anything like that. And really it's about you know, no matter what, no matter how dark it is, and you think that nobody is there, there is always somebody who is going to mourn and miss you at no cost. And you know what? There is, that was one of the biggest parts of when I had my past life regression and I seen that I committed suicide. They pushed me right into a very close, we were orphans, we were brought up together, very, very close quarters. And her pain, I couldn't stop the tears from, like, she mourned me so, so, so deeply. And that was more of the message than what had happened. But it's, we think we don't have anybody, but we do always.
Mhm.
And that pain was not something that I would ever want anybody ever to have to experience.
Absolutely. Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, so walk-ins. We were
Oh, yes. Walk-ins. Yeah, those are interesting. You go ahead, Linda.
okay.
We talked about walk-ins a couple of times. I've had a couple on my table, the walk-ins there. It's quite interesting.
It
Yeah.
is
Oh,
really interesting information to think that there are contracts that we make with other people that are not, I don't can't say other people, but other spirits, that
yeah.
at certain parts in our timeline, they're going to step in and kind of take over with a completely different timeline than what the original spirit has come in with. And I find that so interesting, such an interesting way of looking at things. And so this happens sometimes when there's an overabundance of karma or something that the spirit is saying, maybe I need a little assistance. Then that can call in a walk-in at that point. Or it can just be that you have that agreement that at a certain point in the timeline, another spirit is walking in and stepping into that experience with a new timeline in the back and
Mhm.
walking into. And the reason why a lot of times there's contracts that need to be fulfilled with the relationships and different connections that we have, that we need new energy to step in to fulfill that
Absolutely.
contract.
Absolutely. And it's important to know that it is always a contract. It's never somebody, it's never a soul or a spirit that's just going to come in and take over. That doesn't happen. That if the walk-in happens, it is a contract that was put in place before you were reincarnated, right? So some souls might say, well, I just don't want to go through that baby stage. I just don't want to, I want to come in, I just don't want to have to go through all of that again.
Mhm.
And another soul may say, well, that's the part that I really need. And so they kind of collaborate and work together, and one comes in and then the other one comes in afterwards.
Mhm. Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's a very interesting thing to me. And I have only had one experience with a walk-in in a regression. So it's not something that I feel is very common, but does happen at times.
Mhm. And I've had two. I've experienced two, and both times, what was I going to say now? Both times, both of them felt like they were in a place, and it was interesting because both were late teens, early 20s, and they both felt like they were in a body that they didn't belong at this point, right? So one had been a walk-in when that person was about 5, and the other one had been a walk-in when that person was about 12 or 13. So, and it was really interesting because I could see the difference in the energy when I was doing it was both tuning fork sessions, and I could see the difference in the energy when I hit those ages. It was just like a complete 360 with the energy. It was like the energy, yeah, completely different.
Mhm. Yeah.
So And it's important to know that you have, when there is a walk-in, they come in, they have the memories of what that person lived in the beginning of their years, right?
Yes. Oh, yes. They walk in with a complete set of experiences in this life of what they had, along with
Absolutely.
new energy that they've come in with according to their
That
time.
they brought in. Yeah, exactly. Yeah,
Mhm.
so those are interesting. And then, Linda, maybe if you want to talk about early inner child a little bit, and the and how that really affects, like, what we do in the beginning of part of our life, and how that can really affect.
Patricia, sorry, excuse me. Patricia Callahan is thinking, do you think transgenders could be walk-ins? I mean, anybody could be a walk-in,
Anybody can be a walk-in.
anybody at all, at
Mhm.
all.
Yeah,
Um, but yeah, I mean, it can happen to any sex, it doesn't matter. It can happen to anybody.
absolutely.
Um, okay.
Because when we're in the spirit, when we're in our spirit form, we don't have a gender, right? We choose our gender. That's part of what we choose when we come in, and that programming happens right then, and like before we're actually born, right? So
Mhm. Yeah. Okay, so talking about inner child, so when we're going through our formative years, all of that information that we have on that timeline actually shapes those formative years. And this is all part of our deeper purpose that we're to carry out later on. And so all of that information gets kind of compacted into those, like what you're experiencing when you're in the womb, and that programming in the cellular level. Then as we grow and we're born, every section of the growing process is actually forming certain parts of your personality. And as we grow, we're getting programmed according to what we need in that basic learning, so that we start attracting to ourselves, once we start moving into the energetics of law of attraction, that we start attracting to ourselves the experiences that triggers those early childhood experiences to cause you to start thinking on new levels and start moving into these new ways of growth and learning. Is there
absolutely.
anything you wanted to add to that?
No, no, I'm good.
So a lot of times, when we walk in and we have these really intense childhoods full of trauma, full of, extreme need for survival, and these things, it's about some of the things that you've experienced in the past, that you needed that intense learning in those early periods. And for a spirit that's coming down and having these really intense experiences, when you're coming from a place of pure connection, pure love, acceptance, understanding, into this intense feeling of growth and trauma that can happen in early childhood, and that's why inner child work is so important. It becomes very intense, very traumatic. And so, it's just the understanding that those early experiences are there for a reason. They're there to help you lay the foundation that you need to live out those purposes of what is to come for later on in your human experience.
Absolutely, absolutely. Yeah.
Mhm.
And
Um,
you do a lot of inner child work, Linda, don't you? With clients, I mean, right?
Absolutely. We do a lot of inner child work. I'm actually going to be releasing an inner child free program that you can join. It'll be starting this Saturday. It's going to run for 3 days, and then I'll have a long program that you can join after that. But the inner child work is just so powerful, and it brings up so much that, like, to me, anything that I can trigger inside myself to
For
push
healing.
myself to learn is just a gift as far as I'm concerned. So inner child work was definitely one of those big stepping stones in the healing process for me. So definitely bringing that forward for other people to experience as well.
Mhm.
Big
Yeah,
one. But yeah,
that's a really big one.
it is a really big one, which brings us into purpose, right?
Mhm.
Every single life that you live has purpose. Um,
Yes.
and it gets hidden under all of this trauma and stuff and this darkness that we that we engage in, and really helping ourselves to work through these things, and connecting to all those gifts that we've learned and fostered in all of those past lives, and all of that. There's tons of experience there, not only in the past lives but in the DNA as well, right? There's tons of gifts, tons of experience that we can pull on to bring that into the now, to help us to connect to our deeper purpose.
Mhm.
And every life has its own unique purpose, but everything that we have inserted into our timeline is to help us to grow in the now and what we're to do right now. And it's very powerful that, like, and purpose is much more intense, much more driven with conviction than, say, trying to reach a couple goals here and there,
Absolutely. Yeah.
right?
So we are an accumulation of everything that we ever were in every lifetime. Everything that we've ever lived is in us right now. Whether it's our DNA, like our cells, all the information from our cells, all the information from any experiences that we've had. So every time we look in the mirror, we are more than just this lifetime. We are
Yeah.
so much more. And there's so much that we can draw upon, right? For that healing.
There is, and that's what we have to know in this work of, like, raising the consciousness of the planet, is there's so much experience, so much knowledge. We have access to whatever we need right now.
Mhm.
And that drives us towards our purpose. It drives us towards that deeper meaning, our conviction. Everybody has a specific conviction of their own, a purpose of their own that they're here to bring to the collective.
Mhm.
And really connecting to your perfection in that, and knowing that you are exactly where you need to be in your your
Moment.
evolutionary process, that you're not missing anything. And if you're stuck in these darker ways of thinking, then we just need to start connecting with that and asking what the deeper messages are, so we can start moving on to these light thinking, which is, more in line with forgiveness and compassion and love and all of those aspects of ourselves. Very important.
Yeah. And it's important, if you're in those dark places, is to be aware, aware enough so that you know something has triggered that for you.
That's right.
Right. So when you're aware, to know that, okay, this, let's just take a step back here and find out what has triggered this for me. When you're aware and you're able to say that, you've got half the battle done, because you realize that it's not something that's right, actually right here and now. It's likely something from the past, if it's been reoccurring, if it's a repetition that's been happening over and over and over again.
That's right.
It is something from the past. And so there's so many ways that we can heal different things from the past. But the very first thing, as well as the past life regression, what we talked about, the very first thing is being aware that it is something that's from our past. Right. And then there's other ways that we can heal. I mean, we talked about past life regression, and having somebody come in and help you with a past life regression. But if you do meditation, and a lot of really deep meditation on your own, you're going to find that you'll have some memories that will come back to you, that may be from a past life, or an injection of a past life into you. I know the first time I had a past life regression that I had actually happened with me when I was in meditation, I was in shock, because I'd never had it happen before. And I didn't even realize how deep the meditation had gone. Um, but I was only in meditation for maybe 10 minutes, and I had a full past life regression like that. And I was completely shocked at what had happened. So meditation definitely does. And meditation definitely does, should finish my sentences, eh? Meditation definitely does help with, and that's like an auto regression, right? And a lot of times when you go into that and that happens, it's healed like that. It's
the awareness.
absolutely healed.
Yeah, it's the awareness that we get,
It's
the
the
knowledge.
awareness.
And
It's
and
amazing.
and this is something too, is when we're being triggered in the now, this is what's ready. This is where you are. This is what you're ready to learn, what you're ready to move on with. You know what I mean? Like, and within every one, there's a gift.
Absolutely. And if we look at it as a gift, then it's a gift.
Yeah.
If we keep saying things like, oh, why is this always happening to me? And not being aware of acknowledging that, okay, why is this happening to me? What is it I'm meant to learn? What is this gift? What is this gift that I'm going to receive by learning this lesson? When you start looking at things differently, there's just a whole world that opens up.
Yeah. And
It's
a lot of those lower thinking ways that cause these emotional triggers, we get trapped in there. I've heard a lot of gurus say that you get the thought first, and that causes the emotional trigger. It's been scientifically proven. The emotion happens first, then the thoughts follow. Okay, but our thoughts can feed into it, because our thoughts are only taking experience according to what it has seen in this life. Okay, so
exactly.
it's only showing it. You have to go to deeper aspects to see stuff that's happened. That's why you need to go into meditation, or you need to go into those deeper aspects of the mind to get in touch with those past life experiences that are connected to what's happening to you right now.
Absolutely. And some people will say, well, I can't, I don't know how to meditate. I don't know how to access those things. Think about intention, because intention is everything. So if you go into a meditation with the intention, and you voice your intention before you actually go into the meditation, I'm going in to see this or do this or do that, it's going to happen a lot easier for you.
Mhm.
Intention is everything.
Intention is everything. And if you're having a hard time, just don't be hard on yourself. That's one thing. You must have compassion at all times. But you just need to say to your mind, that's fine. We're not ready, but we're getting ready. We're moving into it. We're getting there. And just that intention that you want the truth, you want to know what's going on, you want to know the original trauma. And it's a lot about the questions you're asking yourself, because your mind will find the answers to the questions you're asking.
And words are very important. So we've done a session on words already, a podcast on words. Those are very, very important in how you're asking the questions, what words you're using, to yourself, how you're speaking to yourself.
Mm-hmm.
Very, very important. Probably more important than how others are speaking to you.
Absolutely. Yes. How you're speaking to yourself carries way more energy than what you're hearing from other people. And a lot of times when somebody on the outside says something that triggers you inside, it's because you already have that programming in there.
Mm-hmm.
And that's like, it's already like, oh gosh, that automatically brought me into this, defensive feeling, or it could be an anxiety, a depression, whatever it is, that programming is already in there.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah. So what else? Awareness, regression work. So the other thing is we have to remember, while we're working and it's all about mind, body, and soul, right? So, or mind, body, and spirit, whichever. You want to, we're talking about meditation and intention and regression and being aware, but we also have to work with our body,
Oh yeah.
right? That's very, very important, because if we don't have a healthy body, if we don't have a healthy energy system, if we don't mind our energy centers and make sure that we're in alignment and in balance at all times, or try to be, right? That way we're going to be able to heal as well those traumas that come from past lives and pass through the karma quickly and more quickly. And yeah.
Well,
Yeah.
and it's
And I was going to
also,
say something else there, and I can't remember what it was now. I had my train of thought was there, and now I kind of lost it as I was going, which happens.
but it's important to remember that emotions is energy and motion, and energy is information, right?
Right.
So your emotions are actually energetic messengers that are carrying information for you to learn. So when we focus in on the body and we tap into those experiences and what you're feeling inside and give it a voice, you'll see that there are different images that are attached in there. There's different information, different thoughts. Sometimes they're attached in reality, sometimes they're not, because they're based in a past life. But there's always some information there for you and your mind and where you are on your evolutionary path.
Mhm, mhm. And we've talked about this too before, Linda. Some people may say, well, I don't know where it is in my body. I don't know where I'm holding that.
Mhm.
A good experience or a good practice, and we've talked about this before, is when you're not sure where it is, when you're feeling something, but you're not sure what part of your body you're feeling it in, clench all of your muscles, clench everything, your jaw, everything as tight as you can, and just hold it for even 10, 15, 20 seconds. Just hold it and then release it. And when you release it, whatever part of your body that you're feeling that tension in from being triggered, you will still feel the tension in that part. And by doing that little exercise, you'll be able to see what the difference is. Do you know what I mean? Like where that tension, where that trigger is being held in your physical body.
Mhm. And
Yeah.
I also do a really great guided meditation where you're just activating the general chakras. And then you can do like a chakra alignment. But if that's something somebody's interested in, it's on YouTube. It's free. Just go there and use
Yeah.
it. But there's lots of meditations to do
A
on
lot.
YouTube. There's tons you can find to help you connect to the light. Because connecting to the light is definitely a very important aspect to bringing that new information um,
Mhm.
in the now and what you need to be able to start thinking and learning on these
Mhm.
higher.
There's one on YouTube. It's called, I think it's the 7 minute uh, chakra balancing, I believe it's called as well, which is very quick to do. You
Mhm.
can do it in the morning when you wake up. And that's another thing too. Meditations don't have to be, or guided they don't have to be an hour. They don't have to be 2 hours. You don't need to be sitting quietly for, if you want to, then that's great. You can do that, but you don't have to. In order to get everything aligned and be where you want to be, you don't need to be in meditation for hours at a time. 5 minutes, 10 minutes can bring you there like that.
That's
Right. And the more you get used to it, the easier it's going to be and the quicker it can be, the quicker you can get in.
yes, exactly. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And just connecting and moving that energy through you and pushing that energy to the light, your earth energy upwards and pulling that heaven energy downwards is just a great thing to do for the planet.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And the other thing too that's really good is sound therapy, right?
Mhm.
Sound therapy. And I just put a little video on my page on Lamayu's website, not website, on the page, the Facebook page yesterday. It's a 10-minute crystal bowl session that
Mhm.
I just did yesterday and recorded. And so that was nice. I got my crystal bowls yesterday. I was so excited, so happy, so grateful. And so I played them quite a bit yesterday, to the point where it was like, okay, you got to stop this, because I was starting to have some nausea feelings. And because it is, right, it just clears
Powerful.
so much. So you really have to be careful, which is why I only did 10 minutes of the videos. And the next one will maybe be a little bit longer.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So exciting.
they are. It's really exciting. The next thing I want to do is I want to get my body drum. I don't know if I told you about that.
what is it? The body drum?
Body drum. It's a 6-foot drum that that actually lays over the top of the body. It's on a stand, and I would play it with somebody laying on the table underneath. So that'll be my next investment. Please, God, let that happen. And because they're not cheap, but yeah, so that's exciting.
That is exciting. So much fun.
It is. But those crystal bowls, I've decided that I will be going outside. Once the weather gets warmer, I will be going in different spots outside and playing those crystal bowls for anybody and everybody who wants to come and listen and bring your chair and just relax. And yeah, that'll be one of my missions. So I'm excited about that. Yeah.
That's really
I
exciting.
don't know if we have anything else, Linda. I think we've pretty much touched on everything, eh?
Yeah, I think we did.
Yeah, I think so. The only other thing that I've got here is in past, what do I have here? We talked about the person that you are today and reprogramming when we come back into this lifetime. Some things we may have done stuff in a past life that we don't understand why something is happening in this life. So as an example, we may have taken vows in a past life of whatever. I don't even know what I've got down here. We may have taken vows of whatever, I guess, and we often recreate similar situations in this lifetime, right? So that's pretty interesting as well. And then when we think, like for me, I've always said I was born in the wrong era because I should have been back when the witches were there. And I probably really loved that life because I did have, and I really feel like I would like to be back there. It's it's weird, but it's from a past life, right? So, and there's so many different things that happen. So yeah.
Also, another thing too is cursing. We curse the things that happen to us.
Oh yes, we talked about that last time.
We're bringing it into our experience over and over again till we stop.
Till we learn it, till we stop it. Yeah. And I talked about that last time when we were talking about that. If somebody is, when you're aware, you're not going to do that cursing, right? So if something happens that, somebody, you're with somebody who ends up that you have to look after that person, how do you view that?
Yeah.
How do you view that? Do you view that as a curse, or do you view it as a gift? Right. And then it goes back to viewing as a gift. Like it's all relevant, right? It all goes around.
And it goes back to the vow too. Like you could have vowed to take care of somebody life after life, or you vow,
Right.
that we take vows in many different ways. And that vow will stand until we're ready to step out of it.
Let it go. Yeah. So interesting. It's so interesting. So we've got like 2 minutes. What else did we have any? I didn't write down anything. Did we have any announcements?
The only announcement that I have is the inner child that's starting this Saturday. Anybody's interested in that. You also have your sistership circles, right?
Yes, I have the 2 sistership circles going. I don't have a third one started yet, but if I do have enough people, I will definitely start a third one. The only other thing is that the my crystal bowls now, I will be starting to do online sound therapy sessions that will be just posted to my page. And yeah, I think that's pretty much it.
That's great.
So next week,
yeah.
13th session, 13th podcast episode. My goodness, where does the time go? It's going so fast, right?
I love it too, because I think the number 13 is such a powerful number too, right? And we're talking about dreams next time.
So that's going to be really interesting. Yes, I'm excited. And for those of you that don't know, Linda has written a book on dreams. So Linda, maybe we can put the link to your book.
Sure.
We'll talk a little bit more about that the next time, because I actually purchased Linda's book and I had some amazing experiences after purchasing and reading the book. And it's not long, it's very short read, very simple, and yeah, but well worth it. Well worth the learning. Yeah.
Oh, thank you.
Oh, well, we learn from each other, right? We're all teachers, we're all students. So,
That's right. Exactly. That's exactly how it is. So,
yeah. Yeah.
yeah, very
All
appreciative.
right. So thank you all for watching. I don't know how many people we had on because I didn't see, but anybody who's watched the live or anybody who's going to be watching the recorded session, thank you with from both of us,
Yeah.
and we will see you next week.
Yep. Before we go, Patricia says her
Oh,
number is 1313.
her number is
Her house
1313.
number is 1313.
Oh, wow. Why does that not surprise me with Patricia? That's amazing. All right. Take care, everyone. We'll see you next week.
Bye.
Bye.